Uh, what do you think is going to be the tone set at this meeting taking place this weekend?
Well, I think that the government has made it very clear that this is a time criticisms are not welcome. So I think that...
They don't like criticism ever.
Well, a few years ago, the MPC was a forum for people to voice their frustration, but not anymore. So that's why I think not much interesting will come out of this meeting.
Are we going to get anything substantive? Many people, of course, for years have been urging the government there to do more when it comes to reforming these state-owned enterprises. I keep on banging on about this, but we're perhaps getting some traction. Would you agree? And if so, how do they then effectively get rid of millions of jobs, which is what this reform process would entail?
I think that now this employment, people are getting laid off. That talk is coming back. I'm not sure this is really serious because China is facing labor shortage. The labor force is shrinking. So to me, it's like talking about people getting laid off and social instability. It's a line to slow down reform or to stop reform. So I think that kind of talk is coming back is really against reform. So that makes me more worried about China.
But you don't think anything's going to happen then, is effectively what you're suggesting?
I think so. I think that you look at regionally, maybe in the northeast, you will have an employment problem. But overall in China, we do have a labor shortage, because the labor force is shrinking. So if you allow mobility, the labor market will solve its own problems. There's no need for the government to worry about that. The government needs to worry...
So you're suggesting that the government is perhaps worrying unnecessarily about this?
Yeah, the government should worry about not wasting money. Okay, that's the most important thing in China. It's not about where people should be employed. You look at the coastal provinces; they have problems looking for people in the service sector. Even factories. Now, factories are not doing well, but most factories have trouble finding workers. So I'm not sure this line of thinking is really should be taken seriously.
Well, absolutely, they should be spending less. That's one of the problems which has happened in China, where we've got this burgeoning debt problem and a debt trajectory which is not exactly favourable, to put it mildly.
Yeah, China's problem is misallocation of resources. In particular, the government and the state enterprises spend about half of the money in the country, and not efficiently. So this is why the economy requires debt to grow very fast to keep it there, because the inefficiency requires more debt to cover up. So this is why the economy is not stable. For China, if you want to change, you want to have a stable economy, you have to bite the bullet and say that if these are places we should not be spending money and give money to the people. And then to really create a market-based economy instead of a government-led economy.
Andy, that's one of the reasons, the debt trajectory, that we had Moody's come out and downgrade the outlook for the country. Now, the other reason was capital outflows. Well, the drawdown in the country's foreign reserves, particularly dollars. Now, how much of that is setting off alarm bells?
I don't know the thinking behind the recent policy decisions, because a lot of decisions are not consistent. If you want to, if you are not going to reform, then you have to shut the door to stop money from leaving. Otherwise, you're going to have an explosion. So why you are allowing money to continue to flow out when you are not doing things to revive confidence in the economy? So these things are not consistent. So I think that the government has to really think through. They have to stop the hemorrhaging first. They have to shut the doors. Don't let the money leave the country. Then you think about how we can make the economy sustainable. That is a long process, right? In the short term, stop the hemorrhaging, stop the money from leaving.
And it would just be talking about China. That's, of course, also the host country for the G20, and we had the meeting in Shanghai last weekend, a communique which was suggesting at the end of the day that there could be more stimulus in the pipeline, but maybe the central banks had reached the limits of what they're capable of doing. Now, the thing is, isn't that almost an admission that things are not as good as people are suggesting when it comes to global growth?
Yeah, I think that the elite, the global leaders, are having trouble understanding what's going on, right? They've been basically manipulating financial markets or monetary policies, trying to revive growth. And that's been a long time. It's not working. And then now they are lost. They're blaming people for not believing them. You look at the Bank of Japan when they did the negative real interest rate. Stock market went down, yen went up. Then they started blaming people.
It was totally counterintuitive, wasn't it?
They blame people. Why are you understanding me the wrong way? I want you to believe. I want you to go this way, but you're going the other way. So I think that these guys are really they have lost it. I think that they don't.
Who's lost it?
I think all these guys who rely on financial markets to manage the global economy. These people have lost it. They don't. They cannot do it anymore. So
Is this why you penned this piece, which was entitled "Heads in the Sand"?
Yeah, I think the same people have been running the global economy for the last 20 years or so. And you look at these faces, they change a little bit, but they're the same people. And they all believe in Keynesian economics and believe that they all believe that monetary policy is effective at reviving growth, even though there's no theoretical basis for that. So
well,
now,
there's monetary policy.
And they've been trying that for 10
which
years.
is actually not so much Keynesian as it is actually the school of Milton Friedman, perhaps you could argue.
I think that after the 1970s, when the monetary policy was discredited in the 1970s, but in the last 20 years...
It's a curious hybrid of the two, isn't it, I suppose, with perhaps now the onus very much on governments to do more. Would you not agree?
I think that this is the government should do more, but in what? Do what, right? So far, it's all about monetary policy and trying to get the financial markets going. And there's this belief that trickle-down wealth effect. You make people richer through financial asset inflation, and then
you create asset bubbles at the end of the day, don't you? That's the problem.
That's the issue. Is that a bubble is not a dirty word anymore. And all those guys think that if I can get a bubble going, and the economy will do better. But ultimately, you have one financial crisis to another. So now,
we haven't really, since the global financial crisis, recovered fully, have we?
No, it's just after...
And we seem to be again running out of steam. Was QE a big mistake in your view? Should the economy be allowed to have taken the course that it perhaps needed to without being assisted? A lot of pain. But short-term pain for long-term gain. Sorry to use that.
Yeah, I think monetary policy could be effective at stabilizing the situation. But if you stabilize the situation, then there are no reforms. That you have even worse outcome. So it's maybe a preferable alternative is not to do anything and let the companies fail. And then that will force the system to restructure. That's what happened in the 1930s in the United States. And a lot of people say it was a huge mistake to go through this pain. But the alternative could be prolonged stagnation.
But that's what you're predicting. This is what you're predicting.
Absolutely.
I mean,
we're seeing that. I do not see the light at the end of the tunnel. We are at the beginning of this prolonged stagnation.
And then prolonged stagnation and indeed instability.
You look at the politics in the United States, all these mainstream politicians, all these people who went to Harvard and Yale, they just don't understand what's going on anymore. But they screwed up the world. So people are making radically different decisions. Who can you blame? It's yourself, right? But they blame people, say, wow, how can you vote for Donald Trump? The guy is a moron, is a lunatic. Wow, you guys have screwed things up. And then maybe try something who looks a lunatic may not be so bad. So this is where I see that we're entering maybe stagnation. Economic stagnation usually is followed by political instability. That's where we are headed. I think that too many political leaders have relied on image building, sort of Hollywood tricks to kind of market themselves as reformers. You look at it, Abenomics is the thing. So many people believed this guy for many years, but actually it's just a yen devaluation. There's nothing else. Once the yen stops going down, the whole thing is like nothing. So I think that these generational leaders, they need to leave. They need to kind of give away to a new generation who would be willing to focus on the real issues, not appearance, not finance, rather focus on the real issues, income distribution, wealth inequality, and so forth.